Hi guys, and welcome to this week's webinar on supplementation. So I am going to go through a few things that I advise when it comes to supplementation, but I'll also touch on a few things that might be worth speaking to a GP or your doctor regarding, purely because it isn't directly my field to say you need 10 grams of X, you need 5 grams of Y. That would purely fall within a dietitian's realm or your GP, not even a nutritionist or PT such as myself. So supplementation, first thing that I want to stress, and I want to stress it massively, is it is completely individual. Now I could stress that on every single webinar because every single person's journey is completely individual, but it's even more apparent and important when it comes to things like supplementation, because you may not need to supplement at all. You may have to think about supplementing in certain areas of your life and your diet, and you may have to, for health reasons, supplement some kind of top up within your diet regardless. So it's important to stress that every single person's diet and supplementation protocol is completely unique, hence why I'm going to speak in very general terms. I'm going to cover some general supplements and a few more specific supplements as we go through. Next thing that I want to stress, and it's pretty much as important as individualization, and that is that supplementation is exactly that. It adds to a already existing level. You should not be looking to supplement because you know that your diet is inherently not particularly healthy. So if you feel like you're not getting enough vitamins, minerals, irons, things like that within your diet, omega-3s, 6s, so fatty acids, things like that, if you're not getting enough of them, the first thing we need to address is your diet itself, okay? Because that is where you can make the biggest change, the biggest bang for your buck, and it's effectively a lifestyle change. Supplementation should be used in addition and to top up what is a baseline of a good, healthy, mixed diet, okay? So then when it comes to supplementation, where do we start? So we're going to cover a few things. We're going to cover multivitamin and vitamin D. Then we're going to go into touching on iron and zinc, joint health, creatine, and we're going to cover protein at the end as well. So when it comes to supplementing your diet, one place that a lot of people will start will be a good multivitamin. Now what I mean by a good multivitamin is you can get a £6 tub of multivitamins from Tesco's, and you can spend £20-30 on a tub from certain providers online within the nutrition space. What you want to look for, and I'm going to stress this as well, it's super important to be diligent and to do your own research on this, in a sense of looking for what's included within the supplements. What are their dosages of certain things? What's the variety of things that they're putting in there? Are they putting in magnesium? Improving the magnesium levels could improve your sleep, for example. Have they got any vitamin D in there? What range of B's and C's, omegas have they got in there? So start looking at the whole range. What you'll find, generally with most things, if we're honest, in life, for a ballpark and a summary, if you're paying a little bit more, you should be getting a better quality. And that boils down to even how they case the supplement. So how digestible, easily digestible the casing is, whether it's made of like gelatin from animals, different things like that, okay? So I personally do not get my multivitamins from Tesco's, but you can get them from Tesco's. Are they going to help supplement in terms of what's in them? Yes, but you can be getting kind of better quality casing and better, higher qualities of the units within certain kind of vitamins within a more quality or a higher quality multivitamin, should I say. So what I would do is I would be looking at places like X Endurance. I would be looking at Gold Standard, for example, potentially My Protein, but just looking and checking at theirs as well, and just doing a little bit of your own research over, am I looking to make sure I can get some vitamin D in there, or am I trying to top up with some other vitamins and minerals like my B's and C's, my fatty acids? Is magnesium important to me? Is iron important to me? And that's where it goes back to complete individualization. But I'll reiterate my point. A quality multivitamin with a better casing and a higher percentage of grams worth of multivitamins within it is going to be where I would kind of place my bets, especially if I'm spending my money on them. Key one that I want to stress is vitamin D, and I would recommend at least through October and March potentially looking at a vitamin D spray or a vitamin D supplement, tablet, whatever that may be, purely because in the UK through those months we can struggle to get enough vitamin D from our light source, i.e. the sun. We can get some vitamin D from foods, but not a great deal at all. So supplementing vitamin D will help with mood, will help with bone and joint health, will help with muscular health, will just generally help with all-round general health, and can help mitigate some of the effects of kind of that winter, you know, the SAD, that winter SAD, because that generally comes from a drop in vitamin D levels. So October through March, I would look to supplement with vitamin D. Now here I have to go off the NHS guidelines, and they are at 400 international units, which that's what IU stands for. It's a common measuring system across the globe, basically. So that works out at 10 micrograms. One word of caution is you can overdose. I know that's a strong word, but you can overdose on vitamin D, okay? So it's important to make sure you don't get any more than 4,000 international units per day. What I would do is, if you don't like tablets, look for a spray. That is the only real kind of swap, is purely how you deal with tablets. And I would look to get a vitamin D3 supplement on its own, irrespective of this. That's where I would start. A separate vitamin D supplement alongside a quality multivitamin through winter especially will just help with mood, bone, joint and muscular health. Iron and zinc is something you would specifically need to speak to your GP about and potentially get blood tests, but with the joys of being female specifically, and as we go through menstrual cycle, we can see drop in iron levels. We can be easily prone to things like anemia, and that can have a knock-on effect to the rest of our hormonal health and our health in general. So zinc has recently been proven that it can help by loading, I think it's the week before and the week of your menstrual cycle, to top up your zinc levels. It can help and reduce pain, and also reduce kind of the hormonal kind of backflips that we can go through, for want of a more scientific term. And obviously most of you will know that iron levels can be something that can be affected, especially through menstruation for us females. If you feel like you're demonstrating symptoms of anemia, or you're symptomatic in that sense, here is where I'm going to box it off and say you should go speak to your doctor. But it's worthwhile thinking, if we're struggling with anything in these lines, researching and looking into these two areas in terms of a supplement. Joints wise, glucosamine is one of the most researched, most used supplements on the market, and that directly supports our cartilage health within our joints. If we can keep our cartilage as healthy as possible, we can keep on releasing the right kind of synovial fluid in and around the cartilage, which just lubricates the bones, and joints just generally feel that little much better, okay? So glucosamine is one that if you're finding that joints are starting to stiffen up, joints are getting a little bit painful, that's one that I would also start looking into, but that's a very specific one, as is the next one as well. So if I go back to individualization, for every single one of you watching this, I would really be considering one of these if you feel like you want to top up on top of a good quality diet that I know you guys have, and this for each and every single one of us, to the point that I will be getting more vitamin D in at some point in October. I'll be supplementing either with a tablet or a spray right the way through winter. Here it's very specific, generally female dependent and a little bit age dependent as well. And then over here we've got creatine monohydrate. Now that can get a bad rep amongst females for two reasons. Perceived that creatine monohydrate has the same kind of crazy properties and ability as taking something like steroids, which it just doesn't. And number two, that it leads to weight gain. Okay, now we've touched on weight gain in itself, and I'm going to refer to it as weight gain because weight gain does not mean body fat gain, okay? And what I'm going to touch on here is creatine is a great training tool. It is the most researched supplement in the market. Been researched almost until it's kind of blue in the face. And what's come back from it is that there are a few outliers. A small percentage of people will be non-responders to creatine. For the vast majority of people, it doesn't really matter where you get your creatine from in terms of expense. All creatine is creatine. Unlike the quality that you can get within a multivitamin, creatine is creatine, kind of simple as that. So in terms of spending 30 quid on a tub or spending 15 on a tub, I would save you money and spend 15 when it comes to creatine. Why might you want to take creatine? If you're training specifically to put on muscle mass or to change the tone, and you're training quite regularly in the gym, what we want to be doing is aiding our recovery as best as possible, and creatine can help us do that. And it also sends more water to the muscles, and the muscles hold more water, which means they can generally hold more carbohydrate, so they're generally fuller, shape changes, but also you can draw more out of them within a session, i.e. you should be able to get an extra set or a couple of extra reps before you reach complete fatigue. That's kind of what creatine does. That's where you can see where I'm coming from when it comes to weight gain, because if we're holding more water on the scale, we are going to come up, just like if we have a super carby dinner is slightly heavier, that does not mean it's body fat, it's just weight. It's water being held within our system, just like it does with carbs. Creatine has that kind of similar effect. When it comes to taking creatine, some studies say that you should cycle it, some don't. As far as I know from recent kind of reading and the certain podcasts that I listen to, the most up-to-date research is you don't necessarily need to cycle it. You can load it if you want, i.e. 20 grams for 5 days and then 5 grams as 2 days off, and cycle that way. But you don't necessarily need to do 12 weeks on, a week off, 12 weeks on, a week off, okay? You can just take creatine if you create a protein shake, or you have a protein shake in the morning, you just chuck your grams of creatine into there, 5, 10, 15 grams, whatever it may be, and that just forms part of your shake in the morning. So I have taken creatine before. I've not taken it for a while because my training isn't purely at that level, but when I am really kind of in the gym most days and looking to really adapt and change my muscle size, creatine becomes something that I do use. Protein off the back of that, some of you will be eating protein bars or having protein shakes to top up your protein level. That's absolutely fine, okay? Coming back to this, if we can get 80% of our protein, 70% of our protein from lean meats, from dairy sources, from pulses, grains, legumes, awesome. If we need a top up, have yourself a tub, a bag of protein powder. It's cheap. I know necessarily when you're ordering it and it's 30, 40 pound a bag, you think that doesn't sound cheap, but to get 30, 40 servings of chicken for a similar kind of protein outlay, you're looking at tens and tens and tens of pounds worth of chicken. Generally speaking, for 20 to 25 grams of protein, you're looking at like £1. And you get just a bit more than that from a chicken breast at £2, £3, £4 a go. So it is cheap when it boils down to per serving. It's time saving, and again, looking into a little bit of quality. Things like My Protein, for example, super affordable, always got big sales on. Generally speaking, their protein quality could be questioned. That's where you start going to places like Gold Standard or X Endurance, things like that, where they're spending a little bit more money on the quality of their protein. Fundamentally, protein, whey, is the byproduct of turning milk into cheese. That's it. And we're turning that whey into a powder, and that's where the kind of heightened protein totals come from. So always have it in the cupboard. I would recommend it as a supplement on top of, as I said, a existingly healthy and varied diet. So in summary, everyone should be thinking about these two. If joints and menstrual pain are some things you struggle with, I would be thinking about one of these. Definitely here speaking to your GP, potentially getting a blood test, checking iron levels. If training and muscular growth and build and repair is a focus of yours, as a female you are perfectly fine going on to creatine. It's not going to turn you into Arnold Schwarzenegger. What it might do is get you to hold an extra pound or 2 pounds of water, not fat. And protein is something I would have in the cupboard to make supplementing and hitting those protein targets just that little bit easier. Hope that helps, guys. If you've got any other questions on supplementation or you want me to cover something in a bit more detail, let me know.